If you're inspired by the magnificent grandeur of the city, or if you just fancy some cheap Russian vodka and are thinking of visiting Russia for the first time, here are a few tips. When the house is full, Russians will hang extra friends and family outside the building and encourage them to paint it. The 200-year-old Italian Club was once the home of Princess Elizabeth, daughter of Peter the Great, and a real babe by all accounts. A famous name associated with the city is Rasputin, first name Ra-Ra. He was a bit of a face around St. Petersburg, where he made a lot of lady friends. Unfortunately, he also made a few enemies, who ended up giving him poison, shooting him, and finally drowning him, just to make sure. Undercover police in Russia are easy to spot if you know what to look for. There's one, there's another, and there's three under that coat. And this man is definitely a Russian spy because he can't paint. Now, after the Cold War, Russia tarted up its old missiles with a bit of gold paint and stuck them on top of churches. St. Petersburg is often referred to as the Venice of northern Russia, but only by confused Italians. Now, if you need a cab, just stick your hand out and a private car will stop, or you could always swim to the shops. Now, here's a Russian spy tuning in his nose radio, probably looking for a bit of Britney Spears there. But it's not culture we're after, it's poker. The European Nations Poker Challenge is held over a 4-day period. Teams consist of 6 players representing England, Sweden, Scotland, Russia, Ukraine, Finland, and the Baltic states. This is the first televised tournament to feature not only Texas Hold'em, but also 7-card stud, Omaha, and high-low variations thereof. Please don't panic. Everything will be explained in due course.
Today at the European Nations Poker Challenge, we're going to be playing Omaha High. Dealer will deal 4 cards to each player, and Omaha is different to Hold'em in the fact that you must use 2 cards out of your hand and must use 3 cards off the flop. So again, it's the best 5-card poker hand, 2 out of your hand, 3 off the communal cards.
And let's have a look at the ranking of the poker hands. At the top, the hand we all want to get, it's a raw flush, that's 10 to ace of the same suit. And it's a straight flush, that's 5 cards in a row, all of the same suit. 4 of a kind, 4 of the same number. Full house, 3 of one and 2 of another. Flush, 5 cards of the same suit. A straight, 5 cards in a row. 3 of a kind, 2 pair, 1 pair. And if you missed the lot, you've just got your high card playing.
Gary, how many different poker hands are possible from one deck of cards?
Well, you know, just off the top of my head, I make it 2,598,960 possible hands. So let's have a look at the positions at the end of day 3. Led by their team captain, winning day 2, England are out in front with 198 points. Sweden with a fantastic start on day 1 have started to drift back a bit with 172. Scotland still in with a great chance with 170. Team Ukraine 148, equal 4th with Russia, also 148. Finland drift back a bit with 136. And a real Baltic state, it's the Baltic states down with 66 points. They're going to need an absolute miracle to win this.
Or 2, or 3. There's a lot of poker to be played, so the tournament referee has asked them to play speed poker for 5 or 10 minutes. Fabulous example there.
And let's have a look at some of the faces involved in today's action. That's Kafelnikov, finalist from day 3. Ken Leonard in the blue, Swedish team captain. And Johanna Pusing.
There's Doolally Lally there, just being accused of eating chips. He's denying it. Yeah. Well, he might. She doesn't believe it. And there we have Anthony Kessler from Team Scotland in the hat. Tough-looking cookie.
And over on table 2, Michael Thuritz, the teenager, is all in. That's no good for him. Nope. And that's going to be the end of Michael Thuritz. It's going to be an early night and a mug of warm milk for him. Another good pot there for the Russian boy. A smug little grin from him.
Altbrigin, Baltic States player, looking very pleased. There's a bit of tension developing here on table 2, Gary. I've got my Russian-English dictionary. If I can just... Yes. What's happening here is Altbrigin, the Baltic States player, he's accused the young Ukrainian of stealing. Look, you stole my arm razor. He's saying, no, I didn't. He's saying, how dare you accuse me of this? Now, Yeah, he's still shouting at him. He's standing his ground, fair dues. And look at that, James Findlay there, the Scottish player. He's in the middle, slightly bemused. And no, he's saying, borrow my bic. And he's having none of it. He's thrown his cards at him. He said, shave with the cards. I tell you, this is an international incident. You could have somebody's eye out there, son. Look, you can't believe it. Whoa, controversy on table 2. Over to you, Gary.
And poor Kasperi, in the middle of all of this controversy, is desperate to get his last chips in the middle. The last hope of Finland here. If he goes out...
He's finished.
So he's all in, and he desperately needs to win this. Oh, there's been a mistake. The guy from Russia has turned his cards over a bit prematurely here. The dealer needs to take control of this table because during all of this mess, the Scottish boy on the button hasn't actually acted. So Keith Bendigo-Sloan, the tournament director, just sorting the mess out. I'm sure it won't make any difference. And, yep, he's all in. He's got to win this pot or Finland are out. Nope, no good. And that's the last of the Finnish boys gone. So they're not going to be winning it this year. And it's James Findlay from Team Scotland. And he's gone as well. He's out in 12th. Good performance from him. It's all action here on table 2. Meanwhile, over on the other table, the last Swede goes. So after a fantastic day 1, they're out. It's all happening. We're just about to reach the final.
Now, meanwhile, back on this table, you can see Pevsner there from the Baltic States pretending, kind of jokingly, to throw his cards away because he's in a head-to-head with his own teammate.
And here it is, the final card. And there goes the Baltic guy, been knocked out. And the man he had the argument with earlier on looks absolutely over the moon. You'd think he'd just won the tournament. I don't know what he's pleased about. He's the man that's just knocked him out, and it's his own teammate.
Well, it's joy unabated here. The Ukraine saying, I set my rabbit on you.
Yes. Obviously a very popular chap, the man that's just got knocked out. And we've got a final. Last man out. He's lost his stake. It's Vlad the Impaler. So let's hear what Tony Kessler has to say.
I feel good finally. I've had a bad run. I've went 0 points, 0 points, 0 points. So we've got a chance. It's good for the team. Just going to give it my best shot and hopefully Scotland can win it.
And this is how the points work. First gets 50. Second gets 44. Third gets 40. Fourth gets 36. Fifth 32. Sixth 28. Seventh 24. Eighth 20. And if you come 9th down to 16th, you get 16 down to 2. So the point situation going into the final, it's very tight at the top. England still in the lead with 198 points. Sweden just behind them, but with all their men eliminated, 196. They can't go any further, so they're out this year. Scotland, 180, but with one man left in. Ukraine, 2 men with 150. Russia, 148, with still a man to play. Finland out with 142, no one left in the final, so they're not going to make it this year. And the Baltic States, although they're at the bottom with 96 points, they've still got 3 men left in at the final. And let's take a look at the finalists. We have Terry Burke representing England.
Good, solid team player, Terence. Anthony Kessler, Team Scotland.
Vladimir Troyanovsky, Russia.
Alexander Obukovsky from the Ukraine, as indeed is Alexander Dovchenko. Well represented.
And Alexander Fursov from the Baltic States.
And Oleg Rodan, also from the Baltic States, and that flag is made up of the 3 flags of Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia. And bringing up the rear, Sergei Pevsner, also Baltic States.
So let's join the final table here where Terry Burke has the fate of England in his hands. If he comes first or second, England will be this year's champions.
Of course, the Ukrainians could actually do well if they come first or second. They'd win the trophy.
Yeah, if the Ukrainians actually come first and second, no one can beat them either. So
interesting permutations, yeah.
A lot of the teams have the fate in their own hands, and Terry there with 9 double queen king in the small blind. That may be a hand he decides he has to commit his chips with because he is very low. Of course, he can probably get away from it if someone else raises before him. We'll just have to see. If anyone else has got a hand. Sergei? No. No, none. Alex, nothing from Tony. Alexander Mux. Oleg Rodin. He mugs, so it's just a blind, small and big. And Terry's made the move. He's gone all in. 9 double queen king double suited. Is he going to get a caller from the last Russian left in, Vladimir? He's got a double suited hand, 5-6-9 king. It's not going to cost him an awful lot more. He's probably going to have to call this. And I can guarantee the rest of the table are going to be rooting for the Russian to try and knock out the Englishman, because they're the biggest threats at the moment. If Terry can win this, he's going to be right back in the game. So let's see what the flop brings for England's fate. That's Terry's hand, 9 double queen king, double suited. That means he's got diamonds and hearts, as does Vladimir. There's the 6 for Vladimir. Oh, 3 queens for Terry. That's a great card. Doesn't want to see... Now he doesn't want to see an 8 or a 3. It's an 8!
No.
Oh, my gosh! And England are out. After flopping top set, Terry Burke is eliminated in 8th position. And the rest of
Look
it...
how pleased they are, look.
I was always just hanging on really for the last 3 tables probably. I got to the final, short stacked. Got unlucky in the pot that all my chips went in. But that's poker, isn't it? Really.
Of course, the Russian having knocked out the English lads, you do realise the Russian can't win.
Yes, of course. The Russians can't actually pass England now. England with 218 points. They've set the benchmark for everyone else to pass. Let's rejoin the action.
Small pair there for Anthony.
Yep, not really an Omaha hand. He's probably going to mug that. Not much for Vladimir either. That's a playable hand there for Alexander. 8-10 Jack Ace. It's going to depend on what the action is before him. And Sergei's looking down at 7-7, 8-10. A hand you may well want to play in a cash game, but it's a little bit different when you're playing tournaments. Alexander with 3 big cards, but he doesn't have another spade to go with his ace. Of course, they're not just playing their own hands here, they're playing their position for the team and their current chip position. A lot of things to go through your mind while you're playing here. And Alexander just eyeing up that.
Alexander, one of the 3 remaining Baltic state players.
Looks like he's going to bring it in for a raise. 3 big cards, ace, queen, jack. Every chance of making at least top pair on the board. He's made it 21,000 to play. That's a raise of the pot. 6 with 15. And it's back to the Russian boy, who's just knocked out England's last great hope, Terry Burke. Does he want to make it 2 in a row? Probably not with that hand. Someone give him a nudge. I think he's fallen asleep. Oh no, he's just deciding. Not much more than pride at stake here for the Russian boy.
Well, I can't see what he's deciding about, really. Can you?
Not really a playable hand as far as I'm concerned. He may want to try and add a second scalp to his belt. No, he decides to pass. It's Alexander from the Ukraine. Already got 6,000 committed. Hasn't got many chips left.
No card throwing, young man.
He's also giving it a good think, but he's got a much bigger decision because he doesn't have many chips left. So any 4 cards is possibly enough for him to play here. You're never that far behind in Omaha with so many possibilities, with so many cards in your hand. And when you've got 6,000 committed, the 8,000 you got left, suddenly very easy for that to cross the line. And that's what's happened. He's all in. He's all in for 14,000. The dealer just evens up. The chips from both sides. And they're going to be on their backs. And the Ukraine boys are going to be hoping that Alexander can double up here. Someone has to stop the boys from the Baltic states, because otherwise they're going to run away with this one. Oh, it's a great first two cards there for Alexander. He's now got a good straight draw and a flush draw. He makes the nut straight with 10-jack. Only a 10 will cause him to lose this pot, and he doesn't. So 10-jack wins the pot. He's using the 10-jack in his hand with the 7-8-9 on the board, and he's a happy chappy.
Rejoin us in this tense final after the break.
And welcome back to the Partypoker.com European Nations Poker Challenge.
Now, Gary, remembering that it is ostensibly it is a team game. Baltic states have got 3 players at the final table here. Is it better, do you think, for them to play it tight, close to their chest, and just wait for other players to knock each other out? Or is it a good idea for one of them to get aggressive?
Well, the situation here is a little bit unusual because you don't really get team play all that much, but there's a couple of strategies they can adapt. They can get quite aggressive because they know that although there's 7 players at the table, 2 of them, if one of them raises, is always going to pass to them. So they've only actually got the other players to get through there, whereas if anyone else raises, they've got to get through all 3 of the Baltic state boys. So they have an advantage because it's less players for them to get through. But, like you mentioned, it might be in their advantage to wait and see if a couple of players can get knocked out before they decide to get too busy. It's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do because they do really need to get 1, 2 and 3 to have a very good chance of actually winning this. They're not even nailed on to come second or third at the moment, even with 3 players left, because they do have the least number of points with the players that are left. And the last hope for Scotland, Tony Kessler.
Where do you stand on sunglasses, Gary?
Well, for me, sunglasses are just a way to help stop people seeing where you're looking with your eyes. Also, some people find it quite intimidating getting stared down when they've got someone's trying to make a decision about them. So they prefer to wear the sunglasses because it helps protect their eyes. Me personally, I prefer not to wear the sunglasses because I like to be able to intimidate people with where I look. It's a big advantage that I notice some of the top American professionals have, especially someone like Phil Hellmuth. He likes to really stare through you when he's trying to make a decision based on...
Well, I know a couple of the top Americans, they wear women's clothing, don't they, underneath their clothes? Is that an advantage, do you think?
Probably makes them feel very comfortable. If that makes them feel better when they go out in public, good luck to them.
And there's one of the great players there.
Very much doubt most of the Americans look that good.
Now then.
So still 3 of the teams can still pass England. England setting the target with 218 points. Scotland, Ukraine and the Baltic states can all still win this tournament. The gentleman from Russia, Vladimir, he's kind of playing for the fun of it now and for pride at stake. So, and looks like we've got a race coming from Tony Kessler. Blinds at 3,000 and 6,000. And that's Vladimir's hand. I think he's going to play with Tony. 12,000 from Anthony. King, Queen, Jack, 7. 3 big cards. He's not going to be happy when he walks into aces, but at least he doesn't have an ace in his hand. And I don't think he's got enough chips that he can pass if he gets re-raised. So potentially this could be the last hand for the boy from Scotland. As expected, here comes Vladimir with a re-raise. Looks about 40,000 there. Something tells me Alexander's want to get out of this one. He has.
And there's Anthony all in.
So, it's going to be... need to improve here, Tony. Don't overestimate the power of aces in Omaha. In Hold'em, it's a much more powerful hand than it is in Omaha. Probably only about a 2-1 underdog here, Tony. Could do with catching at least a pair on the flop. That's a terrible flop for Tony. Big straight draw down the bottom for Vladimir. He's picked up a straight draw. Needs a 9. No, that's no good. He makes 3 aces and a straight, Vladimir. And that's the end of Tony Kessler. And Scotland are now out of the hunt with only 204 points. They don't pass England. And we're down to 6.
I'm still worried about these Baltic states, you know.
Yep, they're...
Well, they're actually in a very good position here.
Yeah, with so many players here, they've got this table under control.
And you did say that you'd eat your hat, didn't you, if they won?
Oh, I'm definitely not going to pull a Phil Hellmuth here and say I'll shave my head if the Baltic States boys win it. But at the end of day 3, it looked very, very unlikely with the points they went into today with, but they've had a phenomenal start. That's definitely not an Omaha playable hand. 3 deuces in a 10. Of course, because you can only use 2 cards in your hand.
So they've just got a pair of 2s.
You can only use 2 of those deuces, and the chances of hitting another one...
He's got 2 aces.
And so's Alexander. I think we're going to have some action here. And I'll bet it's not from Vladimir. Yes, little grin. He knows the 3 deuces is not playable. And it's all in from Alexander Dovchenko. He was under pressure, only got 16,000 left. He's now put the pressure on the blinds. And it's the 2 boys from the Baltic States. One of them very short in chips. He decides to gamble. Not that he's gambling that much with aces. He's only got 13,000, so that's not going to knock out Alexander, even if he does win the pot.
No, he's obviously going to throw his hand in, I would have thought.
Yeah, the other boy from the Baltic States has passed. Doesn't want to knock out his own man. Aces for Alexander Fursov. And aces for Alexander Dovchenko. Dovchenko's a double suited, so he's got 2 chances of actually making a flush, both spades and hearts. He's got a 7 for a straight, but no good. So it's going to be aces and aces, split pot. Looks a bit like Alexander Fursov has actually got aces and 9s here, but he can only use 2 of the cards in his hand, just the aces. He can't use ace, ace, 9 with the 9 on board. That's using 3 from his own hand. So he only uses the aces, and they end up chopping the pot.
You know what? I think this Russian's going to have quite an effect on this game, you know, because he's the chip leader. He's got nothing to play for. I think whoever whips his pile of chips...
Yeah, whichever one of the remaining countries actually gets them off the Russian boy is going to be in a great shape. That's quite a playable hand there for Vladimir. Ace, king, queen. Another half hand. Ace, king there. Scotland's last hope. Tony Kessler out. So Ukraine, Russia and Baltic States. The Ukraine and the Baltic States, the only ones that can actually pass England to win this. Even if Russia should come first, they're not going to make the top 3, which is where the money is.
But I should imagine, if you can get hold of his pile of chips, you know, that'll allow anybody at that table to make very, very aggressive power plays, wouldn't it?
Yeah. There's an awful lot of chips in front of the Russian boy. With just pride to play for. Showing he's got ace-king. Still very tense. Not quite as chatty as they were in some of the earlier heats.
No, this isn't a banter table, is it? I think there's too much at stake here.
Yeah, they know they've actually got the prize money up for grabs now.
And the trophy, which I think is very important.
The fun and the frolics from earlier on.
Now, I should imagine, Gary, that she hasn't seen. There's a red card just gone in. She'll probably have to re-deal here.
I think you'll find that's the cutting card, Keith. That's actually put at the bottom of the deck to stop any of the players actually getting a flash of the bottom card.
Just testing, Gary, making sure you're awake there. Of course, I knew that. Now, I should imagine Team England are keeping a very wary eye on this table, Gary. They're in the first position at the moment, but a lot of points up for grabs.
Let me just explain how the points work. In order to get points for your team, you need to make the top 16. 16th gets 2, and it increases by 2 for every position up to 16 points for 9th. Then, when you reach the final, increases by 4, starting at 20 for 8th, all the way to 44 for 2nd. And first nets you and your team 50.
And let's not forget, Gary, points win prizes.
Raise here from Sergei. 9-9-6-7. Very playable hand. I don't know whether I'd like to be raising from first position with it, but of course the advantage of being part of the Baltic States team, 2 of the players are definitely going to pass against him. Yep, there goes Alexander. Alexander and Oleg. So round to Vladimir. Double king 8-9. Yes, I think we might see Vladimir play this, especially with his chips. I don't know whether I'd flag call or raise here. if you think you're in front, especially with the amount of chips that Sergei's got left, I'd probably raise. Nope, looks like he's just going to flat call. Yeah, nice hand. There's Obakovsky. Looks like he's doing his maths.
Yep. Now, if his calculations are anything like mine, Gary, he will have worked out that if one of the Ukrainians comes second, they will have beaten Team England, and if one of them comes third, either one, they'll be drawing with Team England.
And here comes Sergei, trying to represent the ace on the flop and leaving himself a few chips left if Vladimir decides to play with him. It's the absolute worst card in the deck for Vladimir. He's sitting there with pocket kings, the ace on the flop. He's got a feel that maybe Sergei's gone in front. Maybe if he can put 2 and 2 together and realise why on earth is Sergei leaving that 12,000 behind. I think he's hunting out his pocket kings here. I think that means he's going to pass. No, just checking. Yep, there they are. Shows the ace was the worst card he wanted to see.
Oh, Team Baltic like that.
He's turning over pocket nines just to rub in the facts. So a nice pot there for Sergei. Bluffed Vladimir out. And we're on with the next hand.
That Russian wall of chips, it does worry me as an Englishman.
The really strange thing is, of course, the Russian is the last best hope for England. Because the more points the Russian guy gets, the less it is for the Baltic States team and the Ukrainians, because they're our real threat. The Russian doesn't really matter. So we'd actually like to see the Russian boy win it.
Reminds me of the Battle of Stalingrad, Gary, in the Second World War, the whole of the nation glued to the radio.
Raise all in there from Oleg. He picks up the blinds because his friend from the Baltic States isn't going to compete against him.
Yeah, there's a lot of mathematics going on here, Gary. Do you know what? I'm not absolutely convinced that Team England can win this now, you know.
There are very few permutations whereby England can actually win it. I can give you one, though. If the Russian boy actually wins it, and the two guys from the Ukraine get knocked out 6th and 5th, and Baltic States come 2nd, 3rd and 4th, that would actually mean that England end up winning it. The single most important thing for us is to keep the Russian boy in there, because if he wins, we've got every chance of still winning this.
Good. I think I'll stay.
Nothing too playable so far. Nope, don't want to play with that. Ace 4 6 7, not a very strong hand. Neither's double 4 Queen King, not at Omaha anyway. That's playable there for first off. 3 double Queen Ace, and he's desperate to try and get his last chips in sometime soon. So that's probably going to be the hand he's going to move all in with. 3 and 6,000 blinds. Looks like he's going all in for 16,000. Unsurprisingly, his teammate Oleg, he's passed. Doesn't want to knock out his own man. Round to Vladimir, still with mountains of chips in front of him. Rooting for the Russian to win here as an Englishman. He keeps out of trouble. That's it, you hang on to your chips there, Vladimir. Obakovsky, no. First-off's teammate, Sergei Pevsner, doesn't want to play.
Calculations going on there with Sergei.
Yes. Everyone's trying to work out exactly what they've got to do to win this. Current favourites, though, you probably have to make the Ukraine, because they've got the points on the board right now, and still 2 men left in. They have 150 points at this particular moment with 2 men left in, so they're guaranteed at least 210 points. So we could really see do with a couple of these guys going out sometime soon. Action going to be on Vladimir. Not much to play there. No, not a lot there either. No big hands out there at the moment.
Ooh, pair of threes there, Gary.
You keep playing that, and you'll be all right, my son. And give me a ring next time you're in a cash game. Dovchenko. Just him. And first off left in the blinds. He releases. First off picks the blinds up.
It's getting exciting. Join us after this break. Back to day 4 of the European Nations Poker Challenge, and here we are at the final table.
Yes, just 6 players left. 3 from the Baltic states, 2 from Ukraine, and a lonely Russian, who at the moment is playing for Team England, because if he wins it, it's England's best chance to win the European Nations Poker Challenge. So come on, Vladimir. If you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for us. And there's a playable hand for Vladimir. Ace is double suited. The best hand you can get at Omaha. I'll be very surprised if he doesn't play this. And there he goes, bringing it in for raise. The pot, 21,000. Opakovsky passes. And here's Sergei. He announces call. That's almost half his chips, that 21,000. Leaves him with 30. There or thereabouts.
What on earth is he looking for?
Well, he's probably looking for a chance to double up here. He's decided to gamble. Just the 2 of them then. And right now, I fancy this hand.
Yeah.
Oof, that's it, Sergei. Queens, 9s and 6s. Although he was only a 2-1 underdog before the flop, he's now a much bigger favourite. And we're probably going to see Vladimir make a bet and lose some chips to Sergei here. Trying to decide exactly what to do. I think we're going to need you to get lucky here, Vladimir. Just having a look. Nope, you haven't got any of those on the flop, Vladimir. And that's what he's up against. Not much of a hand, but on that flop, he's a big favourite. It's gone check, check. No one's deciding to make any action, and that's given a flush draw for Vladimir. I think Sergei's laid him a little trap. I can't see Vladimir being able to get out of this one. He's now got aces in the nut flush draw. Big bet from Sergei. Vladimir may well be trapped in here with aces in the nut flush draw. The pot's laying him 7-2. And he's about a 7-2 shot to improve.
He's doing a lot of thinking here, Gary. I guess he thinks that he might have walked into trip queens here.
Yes, he's certainly played this quite cautiously. On the flop he checked, I thought he was laying a trap. And then on the turn, I think he's actually smelt something. The pot's actually laying him 7-2. And he's about a 7-2 dog to improve, so if he thinks he's behind, it's a gambling call. And with his chips, he might want to protect his chip lead. Big decision, he's certainly given it plenty of thought. Wouldn't surprise me if he passes here.
Well,
yeah, he doesn't look like he wanted to, but he has, he's passed, and Sergei's happy. And Vladimir will be pleased, because Sergei's actually shown him that he was behind.
I have to say that's the difference between me and a professional. I would have played that hand.
A lot of people would, but...
I would have lost, I should imagine.
Yes, you're only going to improve about just under 30% of the time with that hand. So it looks like an absolute monster. Aces in the nut flush. But it's not actually all it's cracked up to be. So good pass there from Vladimir. Conserved your chip, still in good spot.
And also doing England a bit of a favour.
Yes, they probably could have done with losing Sergei. But they didn't. And they didn't fatten him up either. So we're quite happy with that. Come on, Vladimir. Looks a lot less than it was a minute ago.
Yeah, it's a noticeable shift in chip power from the Russians to the Baltic states.
Yes, and one thing the English boys do actually want right now is for one of the Ukrainian boys to get knocked out before the Baltic states, because the Ukrainians are the bigger threat at the moment. So by not losing Sergei, we're also doing England a favour. So... And the very short chips of Dovchenko, he's going to have to gamble very, very soon.
Not there, he won't.
No. Round to the Russian, and then the other Baltic state boy, Oleg Rodin. He's got no hand, he passes. And Vladimir gets some more of his chips back and shows he had a hand to play. That might settle him down a bit after losing that pot to Sergei. Button moves on, the blinds get posted. And we've got...
Dealer change.
Yeah, we've got both of the boys from Ukraine struggling a little. Obakovsky and Dovchenko both feeling the pinch. And I'm willing to bet Dovchenko's going to have to gamble in the next couple of hands. If it isn't this one, it'll probably be the next one.
Director getting very arty there for some reason, best known to himself.
Still anyone's game. Sergei to act. Blind still at 3,000 and 6,000. Nice slow structure, makes plenty of play. Blind's not going up too quickly. Sergei's actually got a very commanding position now, and he's picked up half a hand. No, doesn't need to gamble with that. And Dovchenko is making a stand. That's his last 10,000 gone in the middle. He's got a pair of tens with a suited ace, and that's enough at this stage. He's also up against the big blind of his fellow Ukrainian. So if Vladimir decides not to pass, not to play, yes, good team tactics there from Obakovsky. He's not going to try and knock out his fellow teammate. And no one else had any hand to play with. On to the next hand. A lifeline for Dovchenko there. Was going to have to play one of the next couple of hands. Picked his teammate's big blind to have a go at, knowing that he wouldn't defend it. And now we can wait another round. Pressure not off Team Ukraine, of course. Both their boys still very low in chips. All the Englishmen on the sideline holding their breath, hoping one of those is going to go out next, as they're already guaranteed 210 points. And if it's Baltic states or Russia that go out next, Ukraine will be guaranteed at least 218, which is exactly what England's got. All in there from Obakovsky. Sergei passes. He survives to live another day. Ace 8-9 Jack. Playable hand when there's just the two of you left in the blinds.
Do you know, I think the Baltic state team are looking pretty strong here, Gary, I've got to say.
Yeah, especially now with all those chips in front of Sergei. He's not going to give them away, that much is certain. Not so playable for Alexander. Just Dovchenko and Fursov left. We've got a flat call. We might actually get to see a flop at this, the first hand at the new level. Blinds of 5,000 and 10,000. Took a long time coming, but they have actually put the blinds up. Very short chips there for Fursov.
I think the Ukrainians won't like that, will they, really?
No, not really. Dovchenko's checked. A bet from Fursov, and there you see the hand of Dovchenko as he mucks. And Fursov picks that one up. He can breathe a sigh of relief as he manages to stay in. No one wants to fatten up any of the weak chips here.
This could be a very interesting hand because the big blind is all in.
On to the next hand.
Now, these big blinds here, they're really going to affect the Ukrainians, aren't they?
It's going to affect the guy from the Baltic states more this hand. He's all in. He's got his last 10,000 in the middle. And let's see if anyone wants to try and knock him out. I can bet it won't be anyone from the Baltic states. There's no one from Russia either. Don't even know why Sergei bothered looking at his hand. And Dovchenko hasn't got a hand he can take on a blind man with. So, oh, he might try and knock him out. No, he decides not to, especially not with those chips. You can have a look there first off, but I bet you don't call to knock your own man out. No, he goes. winner for Oleg.
Ah, shot there from the famous belly cam.
Still anyone's game. The current point situation, the Ukraine have 150 points in the bank, and with their last 2 players left, they're guaranteed at least 210. Russia have 148 points, and the maximum they can actually get to 198, so they're out of the running. The Baltic states with 96 points at the moment, but they do have 3 players left in, so they're going to get at least 192. But the Ukraine in command in the point stakes, but not with the chips. This man's a real force to be reckoned with. Sergei's actually won plenty of other tournaments, so he's no stranger to this final table situation. In fact, probably the most inexperienced player at the table is Vladimir. Interesting situation. We've got a flat call from Sergei. Round to the small blind of Oleg. And now he's moved all in, so he's actually raised Vladimir. Vladimir just checking to find out what the situation is. If he decides to call, can Sergei re-raise him and put the rest of his chips at risk?
No, because he'd be acting on the all-in.
Thanks very much for that, Keith.
The all-in's not a legal bet. No raising.
Just getting the rule clarified. Doesn't want to call to find out the rest of his chips are at risk from Sergei. So he might not decide to play. Afraid that that mountain in front of Sergei may well go in the middle if he decides to call. Just to try and protect the man that's all in. All team play going on here.
There's a lot of it.
So he decides to release. And I bet you the extra 5,000 is going to be too much for Sergei. And he shows he had a big hand. So if Vladimir had called, he might have found it a bit more expensive to play. And besides, he only had 5, 6, 9, 10, one of every suit. Not a very strong Omaha hand, so I can completely understand him wanting to pass that one.
There you go, just a brief look there at Oleg's calculation chart, which will tell him that the Baltic states are in a pretty good position. To make sure nobody else knows, he pops his chips on top of them. Things getting tense. Rejoin us after the break.
Welcome back to the Partypoker.com European Nations Poker Challenge. And just to recap, the 2 guys from the British Isles left in the final with the first 2 out. First, Terry Burke from England. He went out in 8th. Closely followed by Tony Kessler, the Scot, in 7th. So, the situation at the moment, England out in front with 218 points, but with no one left to protect that lead. It's up to the Ukrainians or the Baltic states to try and catch them up. The Baltic states have still got 3 players left in. They're the ones in the white shirts. The Ukrainians have still got 2 left in. They're the ones with the light blue shirts. And the one remaining player with the dark blue, he's from Russia. But at the moment, Team England are hoping he's going to win it, because that's going to be their best hope. So, to rejoin the action, no hand there for first off. He decides to muck. So does Oleg. And it's round to the blinds. Just Vladimir and Obakovsky left. No hand for Vladimir. And a nice little hand, very playable there for Obakovsky. 7, 8, 10 ace, double suited. He wins that one uncontested.
Could do with the Ukrainian going out here, really.
Yes, and Dovchenko's under pressure. He's got the big blind in here, and he doesn't have many chips left after that. Not much of a hand for Obakovsky.
That's playable. What do you think, Gary?
Ace, Queen, 8-3. Yeah, it's half a hand, actually. That's the all-in man, or practically all-in man for Dovchenko. I don't think he's going to pass for his last 4 or 5,000. It's just a question of, is anyone going to try and knock him out? And here we go. It looks like it's going to be a Baltic States versus Ukraine confrontation.
Now, ideally, England do want one of these Ukrainians to disappear here.
Yes, that would be the best thing for them. Even though the Baltic States can also catch England, they're not quite in a strong position as the Ukrainians. So, come on, Baltic States. Oh, and we're going to get another player trying to knock him out.
Well, he's going to have to go all in here, isn't he?
That's 20,000. He's got 10,000 already in. As you can see, with just 4,000 left, he's pot committed. They're going to put their cards on their backs because the Baltic States obviously aren't going to compete against each other. So there's a small side pot between them two, but the most important thing is, can Dovchenko hang on against the combined power of the two boys from the Baltic States? 9 double 10 queen for Oleg, ace queen 8-3 double suited for Sergei, and a bit of this and a bit of that for Dovchenko. And here's the flop. Double 7-5. No good for Dovchenko. 10s in front at the moment. They've got 10s and 5s. Needs to catch a jack or king. Nope, that's no good. And it's a win for the Baltic States, and that knocks out Dovchenko from Ukraine.
Well, things going according to plan, Gary.
Yeah, good result for England there, of course.
I think ideally what should happen next is a Baltic player to go out, and then another Ukrainian, and then the Russian to win, and I think Team England would have won.
Yeah, it's not that it sounds easy when you put it like that. So, Dovchenko exits, and Ukraine now have 178 points in the bank, and one man left in. So in order to keep up with England, Obakovsky has to come third for joint points of 218, or second to go past them. So we need him to go out either in fifth or fourth. Fourth would give us more leeway against the Baltic States, so we could do with losing someone from the Baltic States next, I think, Keith.
That was my projection, Gary.
Yep, that would be great. Hang on in there, Vladimir. If you win this, we could be singing. First off, pair of sixes with a suited ace. And he's in the big blind. The Baltic States now with a real commanding position when it comes to the number of players left in. And here we have two of them heads up. Of course, they can't bet against each other now. Once there's just two guys from the same country left in, there's no more betting.
That's to ensure against chip exchange, I presume, is it?
Yes, that way they can't kind of say, OK, you just put your last couple of chips in there and I'm going to pass. So they just run it out, and whoever ends up with the best hand gets the chips. Oh, very big straight draw there for Oleg. First off in front, though, with the ace. Oh, and ends up making 3 sixes in the end, as is just being shown there by the dealer. Oleg's hands get mucked, and we moved on to the next hand.
I think we've changed dealers as well. I can see a bit of nail varnish on the table there. Where do you stand on the nail varnish question, Gary?
I don't like it myself. It tends to chip off when I'm playing my poker, so... Oh no, it's England's last best hope. It's Vladimir. He's just gone all in. It's 23,000. Let's hope he can get through the blinds and pick them up. Oleg's got a bit of a playable hand here, 7, 9, 10 ace. First off hasn't. Let's see if Oleg decides to play. It's going to cost him another 18,000. 10 already in there. Does he want to try and knock out the Russian? And he does. So England need the Russian to win this. Otherwise, there's no way they can actually win. So we're rooting for Vladimir here. And he's got ace, king, deuce, 5 double suited. Spades and clubs. And Oleg has ace, 7, 9, 10, one suit. Pair of 5s for Vladimir on the flop. 6, 7s, 9s and 10s. The only cards to knock him out here. It's a 9! Oh, and that's terrible news for England. They can no longer win. As Vladimir, our last hope, ironically from Russia, has just been eliminated in 5th. And the Baltic States boys have already worked that out. They're in great shape now.
Back to the gulag for Vladimir.
England still have a vested interest in the result of this.
I think England's best chance of picking up a very good position here, Gary, is if Murray Brown walks in and shouts fire.
They do have a better chance of coming second. The position of Obakovsky is actually going to decide the final placings here. It's going to be England, Ukraine and the Baltic States in the top three. But if Obakovsky comes fourth, England are going to be second and the Baltic States are going to win it. If Obakovsky comes third, England and the Ukraine will both be tied for second. Whereas if Obakovsky comes second, the worst result for England, of course, because then they end up coming third and both the Baltic States and the Ukraine come joint first. First for Obakovsky actually means England comes second and the Baltic States are third. So it's still a bit of a mess at the moment. We're just going to have to see how the action pans out. So, sorry to send you to sleep there, Keith. With Sergei calling in first position. He's got kings double suited. The Baltic States are going to gang up on Obakovsky. The three of them are seeing the flop, and that's a nice flop for Sergei. 3 kings.
Ivorian Tower.
If Obakovsky gets caught here, he's gone all in. He's not going to get Sergei to pass that. If Sergei can double up here and cripple Obakovsky, it could be a Baltic States 1-2-3, which would mean they win it. England comes second and the Ukraine third. On the other hand, if Sergei goes out, because he still has chances, Obakovsky, he's got a flush draw and a straight draw. Let's just see what the turn brings. No help. Does give him a 4 down the bottom, though. Oh, it's a straight. He's made a straight up the top. And that's the end of Sergei. And England now have to root for Obakovsky to win it in order for them to get second. So, Obakovsky doubles up. He's in very good shape. Come on, Obakovsky, if you can win it, England gets second. And the poor Baltic States, who have had a fantastic final day, would only end up with third place. Still 2 Baltic States left. 1 from Team Ukraine. Still everything to play for. First place up for grabs. Blinds now 7,000, 15,000. Action on the button. And first off's in real trouble. Only 7,000 in chips left. Oleg, not much of a hand there. And we're going to get a raise from Obakovsky. Putting the pressure on, he makes it 40,000. Just another 6,000 left for first off, 7,000 in the middle. I think he's going to have to play whatever he's got. Let's see if he comes to the same conclusion I do. Yep, he's all in. 1 player left. Can't imagine Oleg calling. Nope, doesn't want to knock out his own man. So, Obakovsky, England's last hope for second place. He's going to try and knock out Alexander Fursov. It's on the backs. It's deuce 9-10 jack for Obakovsky. And 3-7-9 king for Fursov. And here's the flop. There's a king for Fursov. Jack for Obakovsky. Oh, he's made 3 jacks. And he's got a straight draw. Great shape here. Looks like we're going to be losing Fursov. And that's no help, so it's all over for Fursov. Obakovsky knocks out the last but one man from the Baltic States. It's going to be heads up. Ukraine versus Baltic States. And England are going to be rooting for Obakovsky to win it, so they come second. It's going to be the worst possible result for England, of course, if the Baltic States now win, because the Ukraine and the Baltic States will be tied for first, and they'll have to have a playoff where a representative from each team will play heads up to decide who wins this. So, still a lot to play for.
It's gone to the wire.
Certainly has. England's still got a vested interest. Come on, Obakovsky. Win it for England and for the Ukraine.
And all that because he stole somebody's arm razor.
Oh, a couple of nice hands here. Both playable. Looking a little bit tired. Obakovsky. Oleg raises, puts the pressure on.
It looks like he should be sat on the back of the England rugby team bus.
What would we be doing at the back of the England rugby team
Playing
bus there,
poker.
Keith? Yeah, probably. Raised to 44,000. Is this the hand Obakovsky wants to gamble with? It's certainly playable. Looks like he's calling. We're going to see a flop. Just a quick check back there for Obakovsky. It's a bit late now. You put 44,000 in the middle.
It's got him thinking.
Doesn't want to show his eyes. That's the alternative to wearing sunglasses. You'll notice a lot of poker players actually wear a cap. What they quite often do is they'll look down when someone's trying to stare at them to use the top brim to prevent anyone looking at their eyes. It's not to get rid of the glare from the sun as the baseball players do. A lot of these poker players never see the sun. And here's the flop. It's 4-8 jack. Obakovsky with top pair and a straight draws checked. And a very, very good straight there for Oleg. He's gone all in. He's put the pressure straight back on Obakovsky. And let's see how much he likes it. Of course, he's only got one pair at the moment.
Looking for a 9 there, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a lot of money to call just to hit a 9. I think if it had been really happy with this flop, he'd have made the bet into Oleg. So by making the check, it's almost like he's decided not to play this hand, and that's what's happened. He's decided to release. Got a very good straight draw there, Oleg. He wants to see the next card to see if he hits it. No rabbit hunting in this game.
Well, he's still there, Obakovsky. Let's find out how he gets on after the break.
Welcome back to the Partypoker.com European Nations Poker Challenge. Just to recap, that was the end of Dovchenko in 6th, followed by Sergei from the Baltic States. Then, the last of England's hope, it was Vladimir from Russia, and that meant England couldn't win anymore. Followed by Fursov from the Baltic States. And that's where we rejoin the action, heads up, between Obakovsky of the Ukraine and Oleg Rodin from Baltic States. Ukraine win this. They win it overall. Baltic States win this. They tie with the Ukraine, so still a lot of money up for grabs. First prize 60,000, second prize 30,000, and 15,000 for the third team. So England still got a 15,000 vested interest in this. Oh, that hit me in the eye. Thank you, Keith. And it's all happening in the commentary booth as well.
No, it's not a heads up, it's a heads down by the look of it.
Still 30,000 up for grabs, 60,000 to 30,000. That's probably why they're still taking it quite seriously.
Would you play with that?
Ace-10 jack, it's not a bad hand, heads up. You've got to kind of play what you're given at the moment. And I think he's announced raise, so he's going to be playing for at least 30,000 here, and he doesn't have that much left at the end of this.
He's trying to blow them all back. No, he's gone all in.
Olog's decided, let's play. It's time to gamble. And I don't think Obakovsky's going to be able to pass for the last bit of chips here. He looks like he wants to. He just put his raise in. That's what he made it. It was actually 35,000. Only looks like he's got about 35, 40,000 left. And as I've already mentioned, you're never that far behind at pot limit Omaha. As long as he's not up against aces, he's still got a fighting chance. Could be a 30,000 decision here. Just having counted his chips, he's got just over 40,000. Is this the one I want to gamble with? There's a lot in the middle. He's not going to be in a great shape if he does pass this hand. 40, 45,000 is not going to be a very big stack. It could be time to gamble. Doesn't matter how many times you count it, it's not going to change. 45,000 leaves him with a fighting chance if he does decide to pass. But it would make Oleg Rodin an absolute monster. Yep, he said pass. And that's what I'm passing. Half a hand, but not enough to gamble with. And he's showing double 10 queen ace for Oleg. He actually had him in very bad shape, so good pass there from Obakovsky. Still everything to play for, 45,000 for Obakovsky. And an awful lot more for Oleg.
So you know what you're playing for, players. We're going to put some money on the table now, just so you can see.
Ah.
Tournament director Keith Bendigo-Sloan just announcing we're going to bring in the cash so you can see what you're playing for.
That's the best pair I've seen all day. No, I meant the pair of ladies.
Of course, naturally.
Thank you. Mind you, my eyes are roving over the piles of cash. Looks handy.
Nice hand here for Oleg. Aces. No suits. Deuce 4, 9, 10. Double suited for Obakovsky. And let's see how Oleg wants to play this. Not a safe thing trying to slow play aces all the time. Especially not in Omaha. So he's going to raise it up, put the pressure on. It looks like he's made it 35,000. Not an awful lot of chips left for Obakovsky.
Oh.
He is double suited. Nope. He can wait for another one. He's got 30,000 left. But he probably will have to stick them in one of the next two hands. Because the blinds are so big. 7 and 15,000. It cost him 22,000 just to pass. Look at the mountains of chips in front of Oleg. Over 250,000 there.
Looks pleased, doesn't he?
I think he thinks he's already won, Oleg. I think they're there already to count the money.
Doolally.
Last Englishman watching this.
Hanging around with the victorious Baltic team.
I think he might have abandoned camp of England and be moving out to Lithuania or somewhere right now. They'll probably be the people to be with to celebrate in the bar. Of course, most people had written them off before today.
Yeah, and during the day, I think, as well, Gary.
Yes, until they managed to get 5 people in the last 10. Starting the day with only 66 points. They didn't really have much chance, but they've done phenomenally well today. And we're going to get to see a flop. Deuce 9 king, 2 diamonds. And the action's going to be on Oleg. He's put the pressure on Obakovsky, and Obakovsky folds again. Another win for Oleg. Chips beget chips.
It's almost Shakespearean.
And this is the hand Obakovsky needs to win. He's all in blind, 15,000. No real decisions to make. And one thing that he doesn't have to worry about is Oleg bluffing him out. I think Oleg's going to call this one blind. And he has. He's already put the 15,000 in. I'd have had a look myself, make sure that you haven't got 4 of a kind. If you've got 4 deuces, I'd probably want to muck it. But that doesn't happen very often at Omaha. So they're going to turn him over.
Show the camera first.
Neither of them's got a big hand here. And we're going to get to see whether Obakovsky can double up. He's a slight favourite at the moment, but it's still anyone's game. No improvement there for Obakovsky. Pocket 4's still winning. Unbelievable. And Pocket 4's ends up winning the pot. Bit of an anticlimax. Not a big hand ends up winning it, but the Baltic States boys are pleased. As they know, they're joint first with Ukraine. So, from 0 to hero on day 4, Baltic States.
a most unique situation here in St Petersburg, where we've had a draw for the first place in the Partypoker.com European Nations Poker Challenge. Under the terms and conditions of this tournament, if there is a draw between two teams, we have a playoff, just like a penalty shootout, where the two captains will play heads up on a very short time clock to declare the winner. The prize money is split between first and second, but of course the coveted trophy goes to the winner of the two captain heads up match.
Hmm.
3 4 4 5.
This could be over quite quickly, I think, Gary.
Yeah, there's no money on the line, so oof, especially with those two first cards out.
3 10s, very nice. 3
Middle
4s.
set versus bottom set. This could be over very, very quickly.
And he's just pulled a queen there, so he's got 4 clubs, as Alexander.
Yeah, we're just a bet and a call. Still some play, Vlad makes a bet, and it looks like Alexander's re-raised him. And Vlad's not going to like that with a set of 10s, because there's a straight out there. In Omaha, you quite often come up against whatever's the best hand, the nuts at the time, and he's now sitting there with just a set of 10s. His opponent's got ace-jack or jack-9, or, of course, a bigger set. He's in all sorts of trouble. Good play here from Alexander. Put the pressure back on Vlad. And now he's got a tough decision. Practically half of Vlad's chips again to call. And he's called. So we're going to see a river. And this pot's monstrous.
10 of diamonds, 4 of clubs, king of spades, queen of clubs.
Let's see what the river brings. It's a 3, no help. So Vlad's still in front. But Alexander's got the momentum and he's made the bet. He's all in.
Someone's just thrown some extra cards in.
He's just thrown 2 kings into the middle. Vlad's hoping he hasn't got that. And he just doesn't know where he is. And he nearly falls off his chair.
Soft landing with that belly just behind him, though.
He's not going to like it. Alexander from Team Ukraine in the blue top has played it like he's got the straight.
He's basically bluffing because...
Yes, at the end of the day,
well
he is
done,
bluffing.
well done.
He's doing what's called bluffing with outs. It looks like
And
he's going to show him.
He's actually shut. Now that is a bit of gamesmanship there because Vlad's gone paler. Having seen that, he's definitely got a shade paler there. Oh, he wouldn't like that. Well, well, well. A bit of a poke in the eye. Well, I think this will be over very quickly now, Gary.
Yeah, he's been crippled by that pot, Vlad. And the structure's deliberately quick for this heads-up battle. The money's actually been decided. And Team Ukraine look like they're going to be walking away with the trophy at the moment.
Coveted trophy, Gary, please.
Yes, very coveted trophy.
Thank you. Well polished, too. Beautiful sheen. I think that Ukrainian fella's trying not to giggle. Haven't got away with blue murder.
Bluffed you.
Yeah.
Vlad doesn't like that hand, so I think he's going to be all in this one. He's got 20,000 in the middle and he's only got 10,000 left.
It's on the old nose radio there, back to the gulag.
So, what could be the last hand of this tournament? Vlad absolutely has to win it.
No, it's the salt mines for Vlad, Gary, I think. Ooh, that's called playing close to your chest.
4, 6, 8, 10 for Vlad. It's not really going to matter what his 4 cards are when he's got 20,000 already in the middle and only 10,000 left.
And he's looking at a possible straight there, is Alex.
Deuce 9, Jack King, double suited, hearts and spades. So, they're on the backs. The chips are in the middle. And it's a good flop here for Alexander. He's got kings and deuces. If a 5 doesn't come, it's going to be all over.
If a 10 comes, it is, and it does. It is all over. He's hit a straight. Well played.
So, Team Ukraine, 2004 European Nations Poker Challenge winners. And they look over the moon. Time to let a little bit of bubbly fly.
Obviously just cut away before they put in the tip for the dealer.
You were right, it is nice and shiny, that trophy, Keith.
Full house there, kings and queens.
So, the positions at the end of the final day. First and second, joint in points, Team Ukraine, Baltic States, but Team Ukraine take the trophy. England in third, and the defending champion, Sweden, in fifth.
So, until next year, it's goodbye from me, and goodbye from
him.
Thank you.